Hi everybody, Shabbat Shalom. I'm really excited to talk to you about the Torah portion this week. This week's Parsha is Tazria Mitzora, and the joke is that this is the worst portion to have for your bar or bat mitzvah because it's all about menstruation and leprosy and disease, and it's gross. And there are all these details about how you become pure again if you've been in contact with something impure, or if you've gotten this skin disease tsarat, which is kind of like leprosy, or after a monthly cycle. And it seems like it's just a bunch of like old, outdated ideas about gross things. But I actually love this parsha for a lot of reasons. So first, the way we translate these Hebrew words, tameh and tahor, impure and pure, it's not great in English, right? Because pure and impure, they have these connotations of kind of like yuckiness and cleanliness, and that's not what it's about at all. It's about whether you are ready, whether you are spiritually prepared to participate in the ritual life of the community. And there are things that happen, right, that make you unable to do that. And so you have to be welcomed back in, and you have to go through these rituals to sort of get yourself ready, to get yourself prepared to focus on ritual life again. And that's a really important framing. But beside that, I think it's actually really impressive that a bunch of people who didn't know about germs, who didn't know about bacteria and viruses, came up with some pretty reasonable ideas for how to avoid contagion, right? This is all silly and outdated to us now, but you have to remember that the Israelites wandering in the desert, right? They didn't know about these like little microbes floating through the air, or how to kill them, or how to avoid them, or which ones were safe or which ones were dangerous, right? All they knew was that if you got too close to certain sick people, you got sick. So, we have to avoid that. That's how things like hand washing became part of ritual life. And of course, now we know that the ritual hand washing, where you just pour things over your hands, like that's not good enough. We have to scrub and we have to have soap. But for people 2,000, 3,000 years ago, this is pretty smart. So it's kind of cool to think about what our ancestors were trying to do based on the best information that they had. The second reason why I really like this portion is because of what happens when someone has tzara'at, when they have this skin disease. So the person is quarantined outside the camp, and they have to wait a certain period of time. And when they appear to be healed, the Kohen has to come look at them to make sure that they're safe to come back in. And again, at first, this seems like another misguided approach. Why is the religious leader the one who's in charge of medicine? Like, that's bad news. Don't ask me any medical questions. That's a terrible plan. But, the Israelites, they didn't have doctors wandering through the desert with them. This was the person who they saw as the most educated and the best authority. And also, this is a really big, important person who's coming to see somebody who is the lowest of the low at this point in their life. The skin disease, tzara'at, carried all this stigma with it, right? People were afraid, and it was very contagious, and it was gross looking, and there was also this idea that like you got tzara'at because of certain behaviors of yours, right? This isn't something I believe or I endorse now, but that was kind of part of the concept then, that you got tzara'at if you had behaved in a bad way, if you had been gossipy, or if you had been kind of unkind to other people. So there's a lot of stigma around this. And when somebody who had suffered from tzara'at had gotten better, had healed, the way that they were welcomed back in was for the most important person in the community to come see them. And this was important because the Kohen carried the weight, carried the authority to say to everybody else, this person can come back now. This person is better now. We're not going to be afraid of them. We're not going to mistreat them. Right? We believe in and we welcome this person back. And so the authority that the Kohen had to see them and to welcome them was very, very, very powerful to bring somebody back in to the community. I mean, I'm sure you're all already thinking that this portion is perhaps especially timely for us now. Obviously, we have a better understanding of viruses and bacteria than our ancestors, but we are facing a disease that we don't fully understand, and we are quarantined, and we have a unique understanding, I think, this year, maybe more than other years, of what the Israelites were dealing with in this parsha, of how they felt when they faced illnesses that frightened and isolated them. We are fortunate to have much better science and to be able to ask doctors instead of your religious leaders for medical advice. So please do that. But I hope we can still learn from this parsha. I hope we can still learn from this lesson of the Kohen, that those of us who are fortunate enough to stay healthy, those of us who have resources at our disposal, are in a powerful position to help others. And obviously, we're not going to visit anybody the way that the Kohen did, but there are so many ways for us to connect and support one another. There are so many ways for us to use our resources for good. There are so many ways for us, when all of this is behind us, to reconnect. I'm so proud to be leading this community because I think we've already done a really great job of staying connected by calling each other, by supporting each other in grief and in fear and in joy. And I really, really, really am so proud. And I'm glad we're reading this parsha this week to encourage us to continue in these very important ways. So I'll look forward to connecting with you at Shabbat services tonight and in all the things we're looking forward to this week. Shabbat Shalom.